Hi, and welcome to the Breakaway Entrepreneur podcast, where we explore the entrepreneur mindset and the characteristics and traits that lead to success. I'm your host, Janet Fish, and I'd like to introduce my guest for today, Katrina Sawa. Katrina helps entrepreneurs make more money doing what they love. She's a speaker and an international best-selling author. I sat down with Katrina and talked to her about her journey to becoming a successful entrepreneur. She shares her insights and thoughts on how it will all work out in the end. I hope you enjoy our chat. All right, Katrina, how are you this afternoon? Actually, it's morning, isn't it? No, it's noon. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good. I'm good.
I don't know whether it's coming or going. It's beautiful Monday morning. I guess it's Monday afternoon. So welcome to the podcast. I just want to start out by having you give me just some background on you, your personal life, your business life, how you got into being an entrepreneur, how you got started. Just give me some insights about you.
Okay. Well, I was born. No, I'm just kidding. I won't go back that far. I've been in sales and marketing all my life, from my very first job as an ice cream scooper at Thrifty's, if you remember. And I would always tell people up from one scoop to 2 or 3. So I was born for this. I don't know. My mom and dad have no idea how I came into making it easy to do sales and market and talk like that. Just easy for me. So one of my last jobs, though, as in the real world, was as an advertising rep for the local newspaper here in Sacramento, California. And I did it for 2 years. I was top in sales because I was really good at consulting people on what else they need to do besides run the ad, right? They'd want to just give me $500 in their business card and say, run this. And I'm like, no, that's not going to help you out. So I would have to teach them more about what to put in the ad, what to say, the marketing message, and then how you're going to encounter the people when they come in and what you're going to do to follow up and Nobody else taught that. And they didn't know what they were doing. So that's really what got me into doing my own business as a marketing or business consultant back then and now coach. And it was because I saw so many small business owners that didn't know what they were doing. And I would see them go out of business left and right, and it would break my heart. And, when someone's really passionate and this is their baby, you want it to work, whether it's someone you know well or not. So that's really how I got started into the business. And it's just evolved. It's evolved many years, for the last 18 years now into so many different fun things. I can't even imagine doing anything different.
So talk a little bit about that journey. Talk a little bit about what it's looked like from when you got started, and then the successful 10 author that you are today.
Yeah. And 2 more books on the way this year, in fact.
10. Awesome. We'll talk about that for sure.
Right? It's just fun. It gets addicting. I've done everything. I've had lots of mentors, lots of masterminds. You and I had similar mentor in some cases. That's where we met. Yep. And it's just a constant learning journey as an entrepreneur. You have to be open to learning new things and change and getting comfortable being uncomfortable. It's so true. And, I had to, at first I was one of those who thought I knew what I knew. Thought I knew enough about, I was confident. I was very confident out the gate. Probably to the extent of being a little overly confident. And then I got into this world of the online marketing stuff, which I had no idea about the first 3 years of my business. And that was where I was like, oh, I don't know it all. Look at this whole world. I can make that much money doing that instead of this. Well, wow, sign me up, show me how to do that. I just kept learning from one mentor and mastermind to another and live events and trainings and things like that. And that's really what changed it for me, is really just getting that education and getting a lot of friends and mastermind partners in the process, people you can call that you haven't talked to in 6 to 10 years. And you're like, oh my God, this is what's happening to me. Can you believe this? And what are you up to? And it's just, I can't even, it's a great life. It really is a great life.
What do you like best about being an entrepreneur?
That I get to do whatever the hell I want, whenever the hell I want it.
I agree.
And I can say no.
I like to say with whoever you want to do it with.
Yes. And, it's true. You can design. I'm all about designing the business around the kind of life you want to live, not fitting your life in around your business.
Yeah.
Because I've been there too, where it's like, oh, I have to make a sale or I have to work all these hours. But for me, it wasn't ever a bad thing because I loved what I do. There's people that don't love what they do. They're in jobs that they hate or careers that they're tired of or, frustrated with, or they can't make more money because they're stuck here at a certain level. And, being an entrepreneur means you can decide to raise your rates. You can decide to stop doing this service and add this service if you want to. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm assuming you've worked with a lot of different kinds of entrepreneurs. Where's your market? Who's your ideal client? Who do you like to work with the best?
The people that are hungry to make their business and life more happy, really, for themselves. They want to get more love in their life and money in their business. Those right. People. I have people that have brick and mortar flooring companies that I'm working with right now. I have people that have spas and salons that are having to reimagine and discovering that they like to now do coaching and maybe let the spa salon go or something, So it's the entrepreneur that doesn't hold themselves back from what else is possible. Yeah. And being open to the evolution of themselves, which is what I like about it. So the people that are really stuck, like I'm a therapist, I have to always be a therapist. I have to always charge $125 an hour. I always have to do this. And those people are not my people because they're not thinking outside the box. They're not imagining what else is possible. They're not letting these ideas come in, maybe one day they will, but until they are, it's hard to actually, work with someone like that.
Well, and especially now that we've been sheltered in place for 3 months, and a lot of us have had to figure out. I know a lot of my clients, I have salon owners and whatnot, and a lot of them we've had to kind of figure out how we shift and how they can continue to make money. And it's interesting. A couple of my clients have changed their business model. One in particular, videographer, changed from in person to now coaching on videography and all of that worldwide, right? Because now he can't just sit across from somebody, and he'll probably never go back. I mean, that'll still be a piece of his business, but he's expanded in a way he never thought he would, and now it'll stay like that. So there's a lot of things that'll stay exactly that way as we get out of this.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, I just got off the phone with somebody who teaches people how to get speaking gigs, right? We're both speakers, and how to get more speaking gigs. And she had her virtual meetup once a month in her town. And she's like, you know what? Now we've done virtual. I don't know if I want to go back. And I'm like, don't, right? You can catch a bigger, more flies with a bigger net, more fish, whatever you want to say. You can serve more people.
I think that online virtual meetings or networking will stay. Not that we won't go back 100%. To doing in person, but I absolutely think it's going to stay.
100%. I've been doing them for 8 years already.
Yeah.
So
talk a little, I know you're a huge speaker. How'd you get into that? How'd you perfect it? I know I have a lot of clients who are scared to death to get up and speak. So talk about that journey.
Well, first of all, I don't think perfection is in order at all whatsoever. There is no perfecting. I have been trained in different ways along the way. I got started in speaking. I don't even know when I got started in speaking, because in my jobs, even when I would go networking, it's speaking. Mm-hmm. When you stand up and you do your 1-minute commercial, frankly, that's speaking. Okay. Yeah. So most people don't think about it that way. But when I officially, took the stage and gave a presentation, I've gotten them in my jobs before probably, but it was early on in my business. I would probably when I was in the chamber, the first couple of years of my business, it was just local. I know I was in 4 chambers of commerce back then, and a leads group and another women's business organization. So I'm sure, I don't even recall, but I'm sure that I said, hey, I'll speak for your meeting, and I'll share tips on da-da-da-da. I'm sure I did that back then. And back then I was probably fumbling over it. I still fumble over some things. Right now, I just think, okay, what stories do I need to tell this group? And sometimes I don't know until I even walk into the room which story I'm going to tell, because it really depends on the energy and the people and the vibe of the room. What stories am I going to tell? What tips am I going to share? Because I have a gazillion tips, and which ones are going to be pertinent to these people? Because beginners for advanced people is bad. Advanced for beginners is also bad.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I certainly don't think I've perfected.
You never did like a Toastmasters or anything
No.
like that? You just learned by doing it?
Well, no, I had like 3 different master or mentors who I went through their programs, right? But they all have 3 different styles.
Yeah.
And so I took little bits and pieces from each one, and then merged it into my own style, because you have to do what's authentic to you, or you're not gonna. I've tried it just using each person's system separately, and it never really felt well.
Yeah.
It never really felt like it fit. Right. I've also been a part of the Public Speakers Association and the Women's Speakers Association for many years now. So I glean tips from them and have trained for them, but also have learned by being in those organizations.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about, you said mastermind groups and mentors. You've always had them. I'm assuming you still have them. We just change them as we go through our journeys. Talk about your journey and how that has impacted you.
We do, yes. Well, I was smart enough to have hired a business coach before I quit my last job, right? And to help me, because I was like many entrepreneurs where they're like, oh, I know I want to have my own business, but I don't know what I want to do. And so she had me do these like quiz type exercises, I guess you want to call them, to narrow down what I was really good at, like more of a career assessment or some kind of assessment, right? Because it was either going to be a marketing consultant or a gift basket company. And because I loved putting gifts together, right? And buying stuff. I loved shopping back then. And thank God she got me over to the marketing consultant. No offense to the people who run gift basket companies, that is a lot of money out in inventory. And if you don't sell it well, and there's very small profit margin. So thank God I'm not doing that, right? It's just a lot more work to make a lot more money that way. So that was the first thing. And then I didn't hire a business coach for the first few years of my business because I thought I knew what I was doing. Why would I need somebody, right? I did go to SCORE, though. I did go to like the SPDC, and they did the 26-page business plan that I stuck in the drawer and I never looked at it again, right? So I did do that, and I did that initial business coaching, which led me in the right path. But then it wasn't until one of my friends invited me to this workshop in LA where, I had to fly there. It was the first experience of flying to a conference. And it was $3,000 conference, which now those people charge like a couple $100, right? Or they give you a free ticket because they really just want to sell you into their program.
Right.
But I paid $3,000 for this workshop back then. So, and that was everything. I had to do 2 different credit cards and move money around just to pay that back then. And when I went there, my mind was just blown. And so that was the beginning of the understanding of this new model. And that was back in 2005. Okay. So then in 2008, I had made it to a second mentor, and he basically said, I'm going to show you how to make millions, and the money. Like, it was this millionaire conversation. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not even making 100,000 yet, but if you want to show me how to make millions, great. Right. I was drinking the Kool-Aid. And, so I did this mastermind with him this whole year, and the whole year actually was horrible, because all year long I was like, just tell me what I need to do to make, get to the 100 grand or whatever it was. My goal ended up being like 100 grand at the time. And just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do is all I kept saying. And the only thing that any of them in my mastermind or him was telling me was just be. And I was like, what? He said, just be love. And I'm like, look, people, come on. That's like,
I got to do some work. I can't just be.
Right. I'm like, I got this in place. I'm doing this on email. I'm doing this on here. I'm doing this. What else can I do? Or how much more? Like, how do I build my list? And how do I wanted to do. And they were telling me to be. And so I cried pretty much all year long because I was so frustrated that that was the advice I was given and I didn't know how to be. And by the end of the year, though, I hit 100,000 and I found the love of my life at the time. So I had love and money at the end of that year where I cried myself all year long. And I didn't really do anything different, although I guess I was trying to be, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just kind of being there instead of being, assertive and aggressive at events. I was just going and hanging out and being open to whoever, which was the key. And that's really what I've been doing ever since. And I'm still pretty assertive and blunt and, in your face and about business and marketing and stuff. But I also be love, and it works. And so I'm very grateful for that year. That was horrible. It really was a big turning point for me.
When did you start writing books?
Back in 2006, that first event that I went to with the mentor that led that, she did a compilation book. And so there was 20 of us or so in that book, or 40, I forget. And so that was my first experience. And that was scary all in itself, just writing a chapter, but it was relatively easy. And what's funny is the chapter that I wrote, that it was entitled, "It'll All Work Out in the End." And I didn't realize that I thought that way, but that's what came out of me at the time, right? It'll all work out in the end. And then years later, like probably 6 years later, I realized, oh my God, that is like my mantra. That is what I believe to my core. And I say now to almost every single person that I teach or at my events. It's just it's the thing that I say, but I didn't realize it. But it came out initially in that first chapter, which is really weird that it did that. But, it just kind of comes out you when you're ready. So.
Yep. That it absolutely does.
Yeah.
So, I know that you mentioned something about automation because I read your bio. So talk about the role that has played, because it sounds like it has played. I typically ask the question, are there any apps or any software that you use as an entrepreneur that helps you with your business? But it sounds to me, when you use the word automation, it sounds a little bit more complex, or I wouldn't use complex, a little bit more encompassing than just what apps do you use?
Yeah, so I have a cell phone, just an FYI. But when you talk apps, my eyes glaze over because I'm really not an app person at all. So when someone says an app, I'm like, no, I don't want an app. I don't want anything on my phone. I actually don't have any. No, I don't get emails on my phone. I don't get anything on my phone. I use it for texting friends, and that's it, pretty much. And my husband. So when it comes to my business, though, so I use a landline first of all, and people need to realize that not everybody uses their cell phone for business these days because they try to text me and it drives me crazy. It's like, this is not a text number. Anyway, so yes, systems and technology are the key to getting more done, meeting more people, getting more people in your pipeline, getting more people to buy things from you and get into your sales and marketing systems. You know this, I know this, but not everybody focuses on this stuff. And thank God I knew to do this. In the beginning, towards the beginning, even in the beginning, I had systems for what I would do at networking events and for follow-up. And so I created this great follow-up system that I still sell today, that I still use today as well. But the technology that I use now is actually old technology. I'm not an early adopter when it comes to technology at all. Like when Infusionsoft came out, I was like, yeah, I'll give it some time. I'm not going to switch over. Whereas a lot of people are like, ooh, Infusionsoft, I'm going to switch, right? And then they convince all their friends to switch so they would make a whole bunch of money for referrals. And I just waited and waited and waited and waited. And actually, I did change over to Infusionsoft, but I was there for 3 years. I lost a lot of my subscribers because they ended up being tagged as spammers and their links and stuff. They can say what they want, but that's my experience. Right. And it was so complicated. Even though I have a marketing brain and I can think about all these things like click here to upsell and one-click add-on and all this kind of thing, I didn't take the time to actually set all that up. So then I was paying for this really this platform that I didn't use fully, right? So then that started pissing me off. And so then I got out of that and went into ClickFunnels, which was pretty much the same thing, but that was like the Kool-Aid at the time. And so I got sucked into that. And lo and behold, and I spent probably 20 grand paying my team to keep moving my systems and my people around and all my pages and all my links and all my database and everything for like probably 5 years in and out of those two systems and then back to one shopping cart, which is what I started with in the first place. And I could have saved myself so much heartache and money and time and confusion and overwhelm if I would just have stayed and not gotten bright, shiny object and gone off on all those things. And I probably would have had a 14,000 person list too.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is you absolutely need systems, but you don't need the Cadillac of systems. Like, I mean, I use MailChimp as my main CRM that, build in amongst other things. I still use PayPal. I mean, I'm with you. It's like you don't need the most expensive thing because then you got to learn how to use all of those things. And sometimes we don't necessarily need them, but you need to have one.
Well, and now the big thing is Kartra and Kajabi, and everybody wants you to switch to those. And my advice is like, please don't keep switching technologies. Yeah. Just go do more marketing and make more sales.
I'm with you.
Right? Get the simple system set up to where you know that works. And honestly, I mean, I pay $69 a month for my shopping cart, which is my database, my emails, my everything, all in one place. And then I have my WordPress website, and I don't use anything else. There's nothing else.
Yeah. Same thing. I have my website. Yeah. I have PayPal and I have MailChimp, and they all integrate. And
they do integrate, yeah.
I have to say that I do have a few more apps probably on my phone than you do, but we won't go into that.
Yeah, I mean, I love Zoom. Don't get me wrong. I love Zoom. I love Canva. There's certain technologies that I'll pay for. I'm pay for a few, but one time, it was probably the year after that $100,000 year is where I realized I was paying like $1,000 or a little over $1,000 a month for all these little tools and technologies. And so I realized, and I wasn't even using half of them probably. Yeah. And I was in some of them are $50 a month for a webinar thing. And it's like, you don't need that. And so I really thought of like, what do I need to run the business? Like, cause I really, at that time, I had to cut expenses because things went, like I was really not in a good financial place.
We all have those. Yeah.
I was making $100,000 in the year. That doesn't mean I was taking home $100,000. That means I had an expensive team. I had lots of software, and I had a new house with a boyfriend at the time. And oh my God, my expenses were through the roof.
Yeah.
So I was not making good money, even though you think, oh, my goal is to make 100,000. It's like, well, just make sure you cut your expenses and level out some of it, or you're not keeping a lot of your profit.
Well, and I actually go back to like at least every 6 months, I'll go back to, and I'll go look at my bank statement. I look at them, but I mean, I'll go look at the subscriptions that I have because they all come through my business credit card and be like, do I need that? Do I need that? Am I using that? Because I probably have $400 or $500 worth of $20 here, $50 here that I do every month just to run the business. But
and it's the cost of doing business.
It is the cost of doing business. Like
you got to keep certain things. And some people are like, well, I can't pay my shopping cart anymore. I can't pay for my this anymore. And I'm like, well, how are you going to run this part of your business? I'm like, that's just silly. You just have to make more money to pay for the cost of doing business and the things that you have to have. Otherwise, just go get a job. Because if you're not going to be serious about running your business, you're not going to get to a place where you have a smooth, consistent revenue for yourself and profits.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. So you mentioned, or you alluded to, the ups and downs that we all have as entrepreneurs, especially at the beginning. Talk about some of that, your experiences. You can be vague or you can be real specific, but talk about some of the challenges that you have had and how you've worked through them to be better on the other side.
Yeah, probably. Besides the ones I've already mentioned, the one other thing that really affected my business was my love life. And so it was my starter marriage. my starter husband, I like to say. He was a great guy, and when we were together, it was great. But then we were together, 8.5 years. But the last 2 years is when I was in my own business. I'd started my own business in the marriage, and he, I thought, was a go-getter like that, because we met doing door-to-door sales. So I thought, well, he's a entrepreneur type, because he was out there knocking on doors trying to make money, right? But lo and behold, once he got into a job and security with regular paychecks and, get up, go to work, come home, drink beer, eat dinner, go to bed, get up, get a paycheck, right? He all of a sudden became a very security-minded person, a very frugal kind of person. And even taking $2,000 and putting it on a credit card so we could actually have a vacation and connect was not going to happen. Whereas I was like, well, we either have to do that or we're going to get divorced, because we need to connect. Right. And, so we just ended up growing apart, and we're living like roommates. And that took a really big drain on my business, because it was my energy. It was my love energy. And I'm the type of person that really needs to be supported and in a loving environment and relationship. Even if I'm single, I just need to be around loving people. But I was in a roommate situation that was supposed to be a marriage. And so it was hard. It was hard to keep up the look, so to speak, of being, that was before I was really more vulnerable in public, I think, and before I could really be my authentic self about what I was going through. And I would just say, oh, everything's great. Yeah. And then I would go home and cry myself to sleep. And so until we actually got a divorce and I got out on my own and I could really take charge of who I would surround myself with and make sure I was surrounded with supportive people, until that happened, I think that was a hard time. Yeah.
And now so I'm assuming that was the impetus behind the love and business connection that you talk about and obviously write about. I can see some of the books.
Yeah, it was the beginning of that, for sure.
Talk about that. I mean, talk about your angle. I mean, I'm a strictly marketing, sales, business coach. You've added that love component. Talk about how you weaved it in and the importance of it.
It is. It's so important. And it's, and I didn't realize what was going on with me in the moment. Of course, we can't see what's going on with ourselves usually until a few years later, when you reflect back and go, oh, isn't that interesting? Right. And so then when I was coaching with my clients a few years later, and I would wonder, like, I was like, just do the doing. Right? Like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you making the phone calls? You met 10 people. Why didn't you do your 10 follow-up calls? And da-da-da-da. And people would be like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, well, okay. So I finally realized, oh, what's going on in your personal life? Right? Like, and I would ask, and about 60% of the time that I would ask in those situations, they were not happy in their personal lives either. Like, either we're in an unhappy marriage or an abusive marriage, verbally abusive, or they were not married and wanted to be in a relationship, but they were so busy trying to make money that they didn't spend any time on their love life. Or it was the other kind of love, which is like love for yourself and feeling worthy, feeling worth the money, and or like, who am I to write this book, or who am I to do this when there's a gazillion other people doing it, right? So all of those love things, or they were in a job that they hated. So there's the love for yourself, the love for what you're doing, the love in the relationship that you have or don't have, and the love in your environment if there's any toxic people. So there was always something in the love side of someone's life that was blocking them from doing the stuff that we needed to do to make money. And so I put that together, probably around 2008, probably the year that I had that horrible year, because I was like, oh, I have to be. So it really was that whole year where I was being more instead of doing more, and I was evaluating my clients afterwards, and I'm like, wow, this is huge. It plays a huge part, which is why we have mindset coaches and love coaches and all that. But it's hard to find someone who really does a lot with both. And I think it's important because we have to be in that good energy. in order to be able to promote ourselves and ask people to work with us and spit out the number of what our program costs, and then actually take the credit card, right? So that takes a lot of internal energy. Yeah.
So you've written 10 books, and soon to be 12, it sounds like. So you've got 2 books you're writing this year. How do you write your books?
Well, many of them are compilation books, anthologies, right? So, let's not say like I'm this super book writer person, because I birthed 2. I birthed entire books myself. The Love Yourself Successful one is the one that talks about the story with the love and money. And then I have the Jumpstart Your New Business Now book, which is basically my system on how to really start making money and start a business.
Right.
The others are all compilation and all anthologies where I wrote a chapter or more. Now I published my own anthology books, which are the Jumpstart Your Blank books. Okay. And those ones, this was 2018. There was 26 authors. And then I realized that was a lot of work. So I cut it down to 12 authors in 2019. And this year I have 14 authors signed up so far, and always willing to take 1 or 2 more. But that's a good number for a good sized book. And so I write, like 3 chapters in each one of those, and I get to help other people get published, and so that's really fun.
Awesome. So what's your favorite? So you speak, you coach, you write books. What do you love to do the most, or is that passion?
I also hold live events. I love live events. I know you do too. You go to events. I think the thing that I get really in the zone is when I'm teaching something or working with somebody one-on-one, or teaching it in an event or a call or something, and people are like, oh, that's a great idea. Or, oh, I see now how I can make a bunch of money at that. Or now I finally understand this thing that I've been confused about, whatever it is, whether it's a business strategy, a marketing tactic, or something technology-wise. When the light bulb goes off for the other person is where I'm like, yay, yeah, I succeeded in helping them learn something or do something or accomplish something.
Get unstuck or.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally see that. So I like to always ask a question about how intuition plays a role in being an entrepreneur. Can you talk a little bit about the role intuition has played for you in your journey?
Yeah, interesting. So I think it plays a huge role now compared to way back when. Way back when I don't even think I knew the word when I first started. Like I was not in a spiritual space, or I was like negative woo-woo, like I was not in that space at all. I had no idea. I had no experience with it. And I didn't know anybody in that space. So it wasn't until I started going to some live events and workshops and working with mentors that I really was able to hear them talking about intuition and going, okay, well, I guess I talk about my gut a lot. My gut's telling me to do this. My gut's telling me that. In the years like 2008, 9, and 10 is when I invested a lot in my business. And I don't think it was my intuition. I think it was my ego at the time, frankly, that did that. Which I wish I could have just like shut up my ego, because that was an expensive few years, man. Taught me lots of lessons about investing, but it was all good because it got me where I am today, right? We have to be thankful for that.
We'll all work out in the end.
Yeah, it'll all work out in the end. Oh, great. There goes my savings and my inheritance. But then, okay, so then I had a lot of spiritual friends in those circles, and started getting into the woo-woo stuff, not getting into it. The farthest I go with woo-woo, I was just looking at them today, is my angel cards. That's about as woo-woo as I get, as I actually do my card today was prioritized. So, yeah.
So you have a deck of these angel cards and you pick one every day?
I don't pick one every day, but I felt I needed to an energy shift this morning, so I did pick one. But they're on my desk for a reason, because I need to do them more often. That's the being, right? That's the being stuff, and I need to be reminded often, because otherwise my brain will just go to the doing. And I forget what I was saying with the intuition. So then today I feel like I've been all along, and I am even more now, more of an empath, even because I just I've taken on energy before of other people, and it literally has crippled my body. Right. And so I don't do that anymore, or I'm just careful now how I do it. Make sure some healers are standing by so they can go, oh, on my body when I do that. I know it's happened. But yeah, I just feel like I am really good with my intuition these days. Yeah. And I don't know there's nothing really big that shifted it. It's just a lot of little things along the way, and a lot of introducing myself and hanging around a lot of people that were in that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think any of us really grew. I don't think they teach that, or they really talk about that. So the older you get, the smarter you get from listening to your intuition, because you get knocked down so many times not listening. I mean, we all have experiences of, I knew I shouldn't do that, but I did it anyway. I mean, that's intuition saying that's not the right thing to do. And the older you get, I think, or the more times you experience that, the more times you stop and say, I think something's niggling. It doesn't feel right. I need to explore that.
Yeah. A friend of mine, Glenn Morshower, he's an actor in Hollywood. He calls them whispers too. Yeah. He gets these whispers. So
awesome. So what would be your advice for somebody who is thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, or is starting out and stuck?
Well, first, make sure you are the entrepreneurial type. A lot of people think they are, but being an entrepreneur means you have to be a marketer and you have to be a salesperson. Whether you choose to use those words to call yourself that, or you choose other words, you still have to do those activities, period, end of story. Yeah. There's no way around it. You can hire some sales team perhaps, but not as a solopreneur. Yeah. You're not going to be hiring sales team, right? If you run a service business, maybe, like I had a roofing company one time, we hired him a salesperson, but he was a salesperson, right? So that's the biggest thing I see people getting into their own business and then not realizing how much marketing and sales they actually had to do. Yeah. And not being comfortable with it, nor being uncomfortable learning how to do it better and more authentic for them. They just don't embrace it. They deny it, they embrace it, and they push it over here and think they're still going to make good money over here. Or better yet, they like go and invest in another a training program or a certification. They get another certification, they get more letters behind their name, and they think, oh, now the customers will come. No, they will not. Until you market and sell more, it doesn't matter. So that's a reality check. I'm kind of a blunt reality kind of gal. So are you, I think. And
it's all about marketing and sales.
Yes. So
what other characteristics
first thing
do you think it takes to be? I mean, I totally agree. And I also agree that you don't necessarily need to already know how to do those things.
No.
You're willing to hire somebody to help you, or you've got to be open to it. But what other characteristics do you think it takes to be an entrepreneur?
You cannot go into it with the mindset that you're going to do everything. You're going to get burnt out. You're going to drown. You're going to drown, and you're going to see very little income. Yeah. Because you're trying to learn it all. You're trying to learn how to design your own website, how to do social media, how to become a speaker, how to do your technology. You have to embrace it early on and know that it's the cost of doing business.
Well, and there's a lot of ways that you can hire people inexpensively.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you don't need to spend tons and tons, thousands and thousands.
No, and you don't need an employee at all for most people these days.
The Fiverr, the Upwork, Tackle. I mean, there's so many places you can find people for for not that much money. I totally agree. Hiring a team is really super important. What's Katrina do for fun?
Besides work, because I love fun. Because it's fun. My husband's an entrepreneur too, so he works from home as a voiceover artist. So if he has a project, he wants to go do his thing. If I have a project like a book, authors, web pages are great, I want to do my thing. And then we'll meet in the middle for dinner, like we eat breakfast and dinner together, and almost every day, and hang out on the weekends. And, like with COVID, I'm very thankful that I love my family and I enjoy them, right? Because some people don't, and that would suck. Yeah. So I have my husband, I have my stepdaughter, which we have half the time still. And my mom's been here for a couple months, living with us interim. She's in limbo. And so we've been playing games. I'm a homebody. Yeah. We've been doing yard work just like everybody else. My yard looks great. And barbecuing and bringing friends over when we can, and just playing games, watching movies. I'm pretty casual, but we're dying for a vacation. Let me tell you, I'm ready to push the button. As soon as Hawaii opens up, I'm there. But I want vacation without restrictions. I don't want to, some of them are like, yeah, you can come to Hawaii, but then you have to have 2 weeks of
2 weeks
quarantine. It's like, okay, I'll just wait. Thank you until it's open.
So I also work from home. So the COVID thing has been not that big of a change,
right?
But it's certainly shifted some of the things that I do in my business, and I think there's some things that will shift as we move forward that I'm still open to. What has the experience been for you? And are there certain things that you found that you're doing that you'll continue to do, or a big learning that you've had having gone through the last couple of months?
Well, the big shift is I'm not happy with the way that things are being run, and I'm feeling like I have less voice and not sure what to do about it more than ever. Before it was just like, okay, who's the president going to be, right? Vote for whoever. And I don't usually get political at all. I don't want to be getting political.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have less of a control and voice now for our entire lives. I'm just thinking of my 11-year-old, right? Like, she may not even have recess anymore ever in her school. Like, oh my God, I can't imagine going to school without recess or any kind of socialization. So for me and our family, those are the biggest changes. It's not a business thing. Those are the biggest changes that are on our minds, and how she's going to be affected and how we're all affected that way. As far as business goes, it's fun because I get to see a lot of my clients creating new things and finally getting the systems in place that I've been telling them to do for months or years. And so it's fun to finally get their shit done, basically.
Have you done any virtual speaking, which I kind of mean, like, typically you go and you have 10 to 200 people in a room. I don't know how many, but you've got 50, let's say you got 50 to 100 people in a room. You're standing in front of the room, you do a 90-minute presentation. And at the end of that presentation, you sell them a program or a book or whatever it is. Have you done any of that online?
Well, yes.
And what's that like? I mean, I'm just curious because all I've done is like Zoomy kind of things. I haven't done anything like big, and I'm just curious, what's that like?
Well, I've done some small conferences, like one-day conferences. I haven't done a big conference on Zoom at this point. And I certainly haven't had a 90-minute presentation. I don't think there's a lot of those out there, frankly.
I don't know. I'm just curious.
But I also don't go to the big conferences where there's multi-speakers. So because I want to be interactive, right, as a participant. So I don't actually go to the events where it's just speaker, and we can't communicate in the chat, or there's no way to really network with the people there, and you just have to kind of watch the speakers. That's not for me. Now, would I speak on one? Yes, of course. But would I attend one? No. So I can't tell you what those are like, or if those people are getting 90 minutes or whatever. I don't know what those are like, but I know from the hundreds of people that I've been talking to in the last 60, 90 days on Zoom calls is that they love the interactive part of it. Yeah. They love to network in the chat. They love to do little commercials, even if they're just a few seconds, and then they can follow up in the chat with people and then take them off to a phone call. That's what how you do it. That's how you do the networking and how you can get clients that way. So even if I do speak at events, which I've spoken a 30-minute presentation at an event that you and I both know, this gal, and it was an all-day thing, and I was one of the 6 speakers or whatever, and I got some great clients out of it. So, and it was a 30-minute talk. So first of all, I don't think you need 90 minutes if you know what you're doing. Second of all, I was not PowerPointing people to death where other people were. I made like 30 grand on that event where somebody else made $97.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was PowerPointing. I'm a connector. I'm an interactor. So I think what makes a difference speaking in this format is you have to be interactive. The days of closing off the audience and just doing your presentation, I don't think people want that anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's been really curious and interesting to me. I'm on, as you are, a number of Zoom networking, and they send you off to, well, some of them do, send you off to rooms. And so
Breakout
you
rooms.
actually get to network with people. Some of them have been small enough that, there's 15, 20 people on, you can actually get to know people. I have gotten easily 25 meetings out of just doing that in the last I'd say the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I go, and I mean, it's and then that obviously turns into business. So
of course,
I think it's here to stay. I think we'll still go back to face-to-face networking, but I actually think if people are at all shy when they go to networking events, which I think a lot of people are, and then they'll just talk to the person that they know or stand in the corner and not talk to anybody. These networking things I think are much more effective.
They totally are for introverts, for sure, because you can't just go in and sit at your table and be quiet until the meeting starts and then get up and leave when it's over and maybe meet the people next to you, right? That's what you're talking about. Now, a lot of the meetings, and especially the ones I run, everybody gets to do an introduction. Yeah. So you're going to get an introduction and we're all looking at you. It's not like you're way across the room and I can't see you, so I'm on my phone. Right. It's like we're looking at you. Yeah. So I think it's more attentive. A lot of people think it's less personal, but besides the hugging, and hugging and touching aspect of the in-person, I think it's more personal.
It is.
Especially if you're like under 60 people in a call. I've been on some where there's been a couple hundred, and that's a crazy amount to manage, but 40 to 60 people or less is very intimate.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. So what do you want your legacy to be? So my last question for you.
Legacy for myself and my family, or for people to think of me as, I guess.
Either one.
It can be. Yeah. I don't know. I just thought that there was 2 different ways to go there on that.
Pick whichever ones you want to, which one of those you want to answer.
Yeah. I want to live the life of my dreams. I want to be happy. I want to have a happy marriage, a happy family life, a happy home life. I want to have a great business with clients that I love, making a lot of money, doing what I want to do, but serving a lot of people. And I don't know how to encapsulate that into a legacy, but that's what I want for everybody else. I want everybody to live their happiest life ever, literally.
Yeah.
And whatever that means to them. That's my ideal. And everybody can have a different ideal about it, but I want that for people. I want you to stop settling.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So you talked about a couple of your books, which I will put a link to the books in the show notes. Is there anything that you've got, like a special offer or anything that you want people can follow up with you and learn more about your brilliance and how cool you are? Is there anything I can put in the show notes that I can make sure people can follow up with you?
Sure. Well, I have a lot of free stuff on my website. There's a whole free trainings webpage that you could put in there because that has it's / free trainings. And I mean, it has a call or webinar about how to become an author and get published, what to do on your website so it gets more people. It has a call about getting started speaking. It has a call about your purpose. It has a need number worksheet, which is amazing. If you don't know how much money you really need to make and the cost of doing business and what you need to invest, great little worksheet to fill out. So there's a bunch of free stuff. I do happen to have a virtual event coming at the end of June. So I don't know when this is being posted, but it is going to happen live.
Next Monday.
So then June 30th and July 1st is Love and Money Live, a virtual experience. And
is there information in the email that you sent me about that?
I don't know because I just created it.
So, shoot me an email with
I will.
Information. I'll make sure I include that.
Yeah. So that would be fun to get people there. It's $197.
All right.
And we're going to talk about how to get more love in your life and money in your business.
Love and Money. What's it called?
Yeah.
Love and Money?
Love and Money Live, a virtual experience. Because my normal event is called Love and Money Live in April, but it got canceled. So I thought, well,
now
people need more love right now. So I brought it back virtually.
All right, perfect. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This has been great. I mean, I've been meaning to connect with you. We haven't really connected for a long time. So it's been really great to and you'll stay on and we'll have a little chat. But I really appreciate it. You're awesome. And I can't wait to have people go check out all of your cool stuff.
Well, likewise, Janet. So I know what you're doing is just amazing. So
all right, thanks.
It's my pleasure.
I appreciate it. I will have a great rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll see you on one of those Zoom calls.
We will.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to The Breakaway Entrepreneur with Janet Fish. If you liked our show and want more, check us out at www.breakawayentrepreneur.com. If you have any questions, please email me at coach@breakawaybusinesscoaching.com. I'll answer your questions in an upcoming podcast. If you're enjoying our podcast, please share it with your friends and colleagues. I hope you'll join us next week.